back to my channel. So I'm so excited for today's video. As you can see from the title, I am doing a very long-awaited part 3 of my Characters I Sent series that I started. I've done 2 already that if you haven't checked out, I will link either up above or in the description box below so you can check out. But a while ago I asked you guys for help on which characters, fictional, in movies, TV, books, that you really wanted to see in the series, and you guys sent a bunch of good ones. You actually sent enough where I'm already planning part 4. I have like a couple that I'm thinking about putting in part 4. But as always, recommendations are forever wanted. I love this kind of video. I have so much fun making it. I take it probably more seriously than I should, but I love it. And you guys seem to like it as well. This is the first time I'm including characters that I actually haven't seen the show or, project they're involved in, because these 2 characters, and I've left them for last, have been recommended every single time, and I just felt bad. So I'll get to the whole story there. I got help from a friend who'd watched the show. I Googled, so you'll have to let me know how well I did, but I left them for last. But without any further ado, if you haven't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started. So the first one's actually probably the only Disney villain I included this time, but you guys just said Disney villains in general, so if you guys want more animated characters, I'd love to do it. And I chose Cruella DeVil. So I was basing my Cruella based on the version that, you saw Cruella's photo I put up, based on that live action version. I had the VHS growing up. I cannot tell you how many times I saw it. I was obsessed with that movie. And honestly, I don't know what this says about me, but there were a number of Disney villains that I didn't fully hate growing up. I mean, I didn't want her to kill the puppies. I love the puppies, but I kind of liked her. She seemed like a strong woman. And even as a child, I was like, there's something about her that I clicked with. So I didn't want to give her a horrible choice or just this, the worst scent to my collection or something. But I was thinking about her and her personality, and she obviously had no qualms about wearing animal products, namely fur, but leather and mink fur. And obviously she wanted the puppies for their fur, but she just was fashion above all else kind of gal. So I wanted to go with a fragrance that had a leathery note to it, that was a bit dirty, a bit animalic, but I also wanted it to be a good scent that I didn't absolutely hate, because I don't fully hate her. So this is the first one that came to mind. I'm sure there would have been others. I actually ifed and ummed about it, but the one I chose in the end was Alaya, by Alaya Paris, just the original eau de parfum. And this is a very strong leather note to it. It's a very dark fragrance. I would identify this as being not so much dirty, but it's definitely got grit to it, and it's not bright and bubbly. It's kind of the antithesis to that. And she really isn't a bubbly person. She could be charming in a manipulative way, which makes for a good TV show or movie, in terms of intrigue. But she isn't really, all my compliments aside, she isn't really a super good, bright, friendly person. And so I wanted to kind of convey that, but from her point of view, she's just strong, a bit gritty, a bit manipulative, a bit, I don't know, conniving and sassy. So yeah, this is the one I chose. I actually think it's really nice. It's one of the fragrances I really, really enjoy to wear the most in super cold weather. I think it can kind of hold its own and compete with really cold weather in a nice way. And people always ask me when I when I show this if I've tried the Blanche and recommend that to me because it's supposed to be powdery. And I've said this before, so like individually in comments, so I'll just say it now. I have tried the Blanche because it came so recommended, and I tried it twice in different stores, and it smelled like burnt tires, like the skid marks that like tires leave on asphalt. And because I did that twice, like that's what I was getting twice from the tester, I'm anticipating that that's just what it smells like to me, and it wasn't both testers had gone off. But I'm also very confused because you guys all seem to like it. I prefer, from what I've experienced, I much prefer the Elia Paris, because even though this isn't like an everyday wearable powdery scent for me at all, I like it for what it is. And it's actually, it can be beautiful in its own way, especially at the perfect time of year, or you know, to wear at night and in the cold, it's nice. Whereas that one, the Blanche, I couldn't even get through. So anyways, that's Cruella. The second one was actually Rose from Titanic. And again, obviously I'm basing it off the movie. And this one I thought a lot about because, first of all, I wasn't going to fall in the trap of choosing just a Rose-centric fragrance and being like, oh my God, that's Rose because her name is Rose. No, I take these things very seriously. Titanic was, I believe, 1912. So I was looking back to see what kind of fragrances were worn around that time by women. A lot of them were Penhaligon's, which would have actually been a pretty good pick, but I didn't own any of those Penhaligon's that they were talking about. And a little bit later, I think around 1919 or something like that, Chanel No. 5 came out. But then I just thought I was going to kind of take a look at what notes were really prominent then and what sort of fragrances were really prominent for women then, and then pull out one from my collection that smelled dated enough where it could have been from that time, and had a lot of the same notes. And honestly, I'm really proud of this choice. I think this is 100% what she would have worn, because the notes from that time, okay, so I'll just mention it. For Rose, I chose 1876 by Histoire de Parfum. This one, while 1876, if that was meant to be like the era it was made for, is obviously before the Titanic. It's definitely a dated smelling fragrance. There's a lot of the same florals that were really popular in fragrances back then, including violet, but it seemed as though the fragrances that were around that time period, from what I researched online, could either go super, like with those same notes, could either take a much more kind of spicy or like almost sassy powderiness, or they could be a lot more simple and flat. And while Rose's mother may have wanted her to be a lot more compromising, and even Cal, her fiance, I think she would have gone personally for the, while appropriate, more interesting, spicy, stronger, deeper, richer one. And that's exactly what this is. This has a very, it's definitely got the powderiness that existed in like super dated women's fragrances. I'm like reminded by Heaven Sent Dana. It's kind of like spiced powder in a way. And interesting that this also had cinnamon, which kind of reminded me of Rose's hair, which was just like an added point that I thought matched her. But it's not floral in like a soft feminine way. It's actually a pretty strong fragrance. It makes itself known. It's very pronounced. I feel like if you smelled like this and entered a room, especially for that time period, it was like someone would think it appropriate for the time, but also that you stood out. And Rose obviously stood out from the crowd. She was beloved by two men at the same time. And I think she, while other people might have wanted her to be more subdued and submissive, she would have gone for something a little bit stronger and deeper, but still of that time. So I think 1876 by Histoire de Parfum, if you've never smelled it, I think it is a perfect fit for Rose. It's actually really pretty and interesting, and it's a nice one to have in your collection if you're wanting like a really good scent that kind of evokes that time period and that sort of fragrance that's not really in vogue right now, but if you're a fan of fragrances that you might want to just have like one or two in your collection that smell like that for the days you're in the mood. So also they come in these smaller bottles, which I think for 1876 by Toile de Parfum, unless it's like your dream fragrance, this is the perfect size for this kind of fragrance because one spray will do ya, and it's certainly very, very strong, but a really good pick for Rose. Okay, so the next four are actually all from a TV show, a series together. So I'm obviously going to talk about them one after the other. I was really excited that one of you recommended this. One or two of you wanted to see ones for this TV series because I actually, about like a month ago or so, maybe two, I'm not sure, but I pretty recently have started watching the series for the first time. And so it's very like fresh in my mind, and that is Sex and the City. I never watched it like when it was being aired for the first time. I never watched it growing up as a teenager, anything like that. But when the movies came out, interestingly, and I don't know why, I did see both movies. And I guess it was like the fact that I enjoyed, well, the first movie. The second movie, let's be honest, was horrible. But I think it's because I actually found myself really enjoying the first movie, having not seen anything about the series at all. Like I found myself connected to the stories and the characters, so it made me eventually want to go back and see the series from the beginning. So I've bought the entire series on DVD, very old school. I have the box set and I'm slowly making my way through it. I'm nowhere near finished. I must be like near the end of season 2, maybe somewhere around there, but I'm going to do the four main ladies of Sex and the City in order. I've tried to reserve personal judgment and again, choose good sense for each of the characters, even though I'm currently feeling a type way about Carrie, but it's fine. So we will start with Carrie. I've done these quizzes. I personally don't think I'm a Carrie at all, but when I did a quiz online before I filmed this, like a BuzzFeed quiz, I got Carrie. So I really was like, I need to take away all negative feelings about her and choose something that really suits her. And while I can guess that she quits smoking later on, again, I'm only in season 2 because she didn't smoke in the movies. She's still a pretty strong smoker in season 1 and 2, and she's a girl about town. She's living her best life. She's a romantic, but I kind of wanted to capture the full composition of what Carrie would probably smell like. And suddenly it came to me, the perfect pick. Again, I feel so proud. And I chose Haute Couture, Eau de Toilette by Givenchy. This, as I've described it before, and I'm gonna put it on because if I really am a Carrie, first of all, God help me, but if I am, this is a scent I love. I adore this scent. And now I can say that it's Carrie without any judgment. Haute Couture smells, and I've said this before, like you are wearing this beautiful fragrance, feminine, not too strong, but at the end of the night. Even when you first spray it, it smells like your fragrance at the end of the night, after you've been out to bar, club, what have you, full night out, you're on your way home, and there is kind of like that slightly bitter sweetness of cigarette smoke in your hair combined with the remnants of fragrance and a myriad of bad decisions. This is like what this scent feels and smells like to me, all in all. I'm sure you can look up the notes. You don't even need to read them for you in this. It's not a haul. But honestly, I don't know if the notes do it justice to really experience this, because this is what this smells like. And if you've ever tried it and if you own it, I feel like you know that to be true. There is like a very end of the night, fun girls' night out, cigarette smoke, remnants of the night and your feminine perfume vibe to this from the very first spray. And I just love it. Like, There is nothing in my collection that smells like this or is like this. Ever since I've got it, I can't imagine ever being without it. Like when I finish this, by the time it's around here, I'm getting another one because I just need this in my collection. It is so unique and so interesting and I love it. And it's totally Carrie. Carrie, who, at least in the first few seasons, is forever smoking, never without a cigarette, sometimes even rudely so in the middle of parties or non-smoking areas. She's, like I said, much more of a party girl in the beginning, as I assume it lessens with time. And she's just dating and just getting out there. And this is exactly what she is. Even the name, Haute Couture, I mean, she's obsessed with fashion. She makes interesting, albeit glamorous, fashion decisions. And she's just living her best life in New York City and Manhattan. So I thought that was a perfect pick for her. Then the second gal I'm going to do is Miranda. And Miranda, when I was thinking about her, I can't explain why unless you understand the vibe, but the minute I thought about her, I'm like, she's a Lancome gal. Miranda is like equals Lancome to me. I didn't see her being a niche fragrance person. I saw her very much being designer. I saw her being a classic designer house. She's not like someone who is fussy with beauty, makeup, fashion, but she's not so bland so as to not do it at all. She's obviously like friends with the other girls and she definitely wears fragrance, but she's wearing something that can kind of carry her throughout the day, from an office meeting to, you know, a business meeting with some other lawyers to a night out. She's not changing her fragrance every day or for a different event. And she wants something kind of like tried and true is what spoke to me about Miranda. So Lancome La Vieille Belle were just exactly what I see her as. I see her 100% smelling like this. Obviously, if it like existed when she was on the show, but I could have just even seen her going to a counter and being like, Lancome is the brand I know. What's the best selling fragrance? This. Buys the original, like buys literally this is the Eau de Parfum, buys the Eau de Parfum. Doesn't even get a flanker. Like Miranda doesn't, I could never see Miranda wearing a flanker to a fragrance. That is not her vibe. She is the original fragrance person. Lancome La Vieille Belle. It's floral, it's feminine, but it's got a pretty strong patchouli that can smack you in the face when and if necessary. And for me, it always does, because I'm actually not a fan of this fragrance, but I do like Miranda. But yeah, it just screamed her. Like for me, again, I was very proud of that decision. I felt like that was incredibly Miranda. All right, now the next lady is Charlotte, sweet, sweet Charlotte. And of course I had to go with a sweet fragrance, but I didn't actually, okay, I think people underestimate Charlotte. I think I'm a little of all of them, if we're being honest, because I refuse to be a full Carrie. But there's definitely parts of Charlotte to me and parts of Charlotte that I could never be. But I see her as more complex than, at least they've made her out to be in season 1. Season 2 is a little bit different, and the movies I thought did a better job as well. She's like, I could have easily picked a very subdued, like floral, powdery, nothing kind of scent, like a generic scent, which I think is what she is on the surface. But again, if she was only going to be that and those were her only interests, she wouldn't have stayed best friends with this group for almost like the entirety of her adult life. So I wanted something that was ultra sweet, ultra girly, ultra everything feminine, because that is her. It's very much Charlotte. But that also had some strength to it. Like I didn't want it to be a fleeting scent, basically. I'm showing her strength and her other side in fragrance performance and longevity, basically. And so I just thought this is actually a perfect pick for her if you think about all of what Charlotte is, and that's Girl of Now by Elie Saab. It's very sweet and like an almond and orange blossom floral, sweet confectionery edible, delicious scent, but it's not just like your run-of-the-mill soft powdery body splash nothing. Like, Charlotte has got a thing about her. She also is very romantic and hopeful in her romance, and very girly and not at all afraid to be like feminine and ultra feminine, I would say. And this is just very ultra feminine. It's girl of now, it's cute. I can even see her having this on her vanity. Like, this is a very Charlotte bottle, and I love this scent. I absolutely love it. Again, she seemed to me as being a girl of now, not a flanker of Shine or Forever. Like, she seemed like a girl of now original scent person. So I went with that. And then of course Samantha, dearest Samantha, who will not be in the revival or whatever they're making now, which breaks my heart. I love Samantha. I think she is the be all and end all of so many of those episodes, and definitely of the movies. I love her. So I wanted to do her justice and pick a very feminine, sexy scent, and something that had some sweetness and softness to it as well, because I'm just like reminded of her cancer storyline, which I know is coming up, and just, I don't know. I thought it was like, she definitely has a sweetness about her too, but she is like the super sexual forward one. And even the name of this, I thought was perfect. So this is Juliet Has a Gun. And she just, I feel like she would have gotten a kick out of the name of this scent. It's one I love. It is very alluring, I would say. It's got that almond root beer vibe to it. It is niche, but like in a fun, like Juliet Has a Gun is a fun niche house. They're not pretentious or even too highbrow, because I don't think she would have gone all the way there, but she was very successful in PR and she was making good money. So she might have like splurged a little bit more than Miranda, for example. Even though Miranda made good money, Samantha would have splurged more. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I think this scent is totally her. I think the bottle red, like, she just makes me think of like ultra red, sexy woman who's super confident. There is a softness to it because of that powderiness, but in general, this is like a really nice almond root beer scent that I think is so, so nice. So that is what I picked for her. Next, a recommended, so we're done with Sex and the City. One of your recommendations was Katniss. And I was intrigued because I definitely read those books growing up, and I saw the movies, and I was like, okay, you know, Katniss was the main character. Everyone loved Katniss, was braiding their hair for ages. And if I'm being honest, Katniss to me is the kind of character who wouldn't wear fragrance at all. Like, other than the fact that it was like a dystopian nightmare, and who even in her area would have fragrance, let alone the money to think about that. But even when after she won and she was rich, like, she didn't seem to me the type of girl/woman to spend money on fragrance. However, I didn't want to just not take a recommendation. So I kind of thought to myself, like, what kind of scent would she enjoy if she was going to, I don't know, gun to her head, choose a scent. And a lot of things with Katniss, like, she wouldn't do until there was like a gun to her head, metaphorically or literally. So, you know, she liked the outdoors. I was like, it definitely has to be a green scent. It definitely has to be something that's mossy and like foresty, but at the same time, something that isn't expensive, because in this universe where this would be a scent that she'd wear, she would definitely be bargain shopping for something that, like, I didn't even see her getting a designer scent. You know what I mean? So anyways, I checked my collection, and then suddenly it came to me, and I'm like, this is perfect. And I almost never talk about this scent because I almost never wear it, but this is so Katniss Everdeen. So this is Flora Jade by Yardley. That's so perfect. Like, she would definitely pick something from Yardley, inexpensive, from the drugstore. She'd pick the green one. This one smells very mossy, very green, very like natural, in the sense that the notes kind of smell like what they are. It doesn't smell very synthetic, even though it's obviously a synthetic fragrance. Like, I'm sure there's no like natural oils in this. It was very inexpensive, but it smells natural. And I can see her just being like, all right, I mean, this kind of fits. It's from an old fragrance house, but again, not in any way like a pretentious way, just in like a chemist drugstore kind of way. So to me, it made sense. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys. This, again, I felt like kind of brought together all the smells and scents she liked into a fragrance, while I don't think she would wear a fragrance. But I also didn't think that she would wear like not a perfume, because I did think about that. I'm like, oh, I don't think she'd wear a fragrance, so she'd wear not a perfume. She wouldn't, though, because if she was gonna wear a fragrance, she'd choose something that was like sentimental to her and was inexpensive, like the Mockingjay pin. That was like not, it was just sentimental to her, and that's what gave it value. This is inexpensive, but it would be sentimental to her, and that's what would give her value. So anyways, Flora Jade by Yardley is my pick for Katniss Everdeen. Okay, so now we have another quartet from another TV show, and you guys, one of you recommended this, and the minute I saw it, I was like, I 100% have to do this. I love this show. I love this show. I've seen it all the way through, so I feel like I really have a good grasp on the characters, and bonus, they're a Canadian show, so I had to do them proud. And I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, it's Schitt's Creek. So if you haven't seen it and you like comedies, you need to watch it. It's incredible. It is just such a feel-good show that you can just escape to and not worry or have any stress. And I had to do the main family, like the main four. And the Rose family are incredible. They're all characters. And again, I don't want to brag, but I think I really killed it. So we'll start with Alexis. Alexis Rose is everything and more. She is quirky, but feminine. She's always like, she's got the most insane stories and name drops you could ever imagine. Everything under the sun has happened to this woman. And while she's very like boy crazy, she's actually pretty independent, and is, especially by the end, spoiler alert, but it's been out for a while, she really values her independence even more. And I felt like name-wise, fragrance-wise, like scent-wise, everything, even the house, was 100% her. And just to note, if you haven't seen it, these characters were, it's a very like riches to rags story. So she was very much a rich heiress, debutante, kind of like money princess gal before they entered their rags storyline. And this, you guys, I was like, this is Alexis Rose. And that is, I don't need a prince by my side to be a princess, because she's like the epitome of being the boy crazy, like just boop kind of girl. But she's also, like I said, independent and willing to try new things and quirky and fun, and everything has happened to her. Like, she has been kidnapped by princes and like held in a bunker, and just like her stories are insane. So this is perfect. I 100% see her having like stolen one of her old fragrances when they were getting kicked out of their house. I totally see her being a Killian gal and just being like, I don't know, with all her rich and famous friends from her previous life being into this. I feel like she would have gotten a kick out of the name, the bottle, the scent has that like marshmallowness to it that's sweet, but it's also like interesting, and it's got a green tea note. Like, it's not my favorite scent in the world. I think it did get a lot more hype than personally I see fit, but it's like more interesting than you give it credit for. I will say that. And that is how I feel about Alexis as well. She's got a girliness to her, but there's a huge amount of interest in there as well. So now we move on to the brother. God love him, David. David we love. David Rose is everything. Again, I feel like I'm gonna say that a lot about this family, but for him, it was pretty easy. Again, he's he's very open in the show with being kind of pansexual and being out there, and with his fashion, being very out there with his fashion and being very deliberate in what he wears and how he presents himself. And he seems like very clean and meticulous, but he also seems like he would be the most likely to kind of push the boundary of like what a fragrance is, or just kind of like what he likes in beauty products. He has his own store, and obviously they had beauty products and lotions and stuff, and part of that he would like go out and source, you know, I don't know, like rosemary oil from where have you and everything. Like he was very deliberate in what he wanted, and he was like a huge skincare fanatic and everything. So I was trying to choose something that was 100% unisex. I feel like if he had a fragrance that he wore, it would have been one that was marketed as unisex and like proudly marketed as a unisex scent. So it just came to me, I'm like, he would have loved this. He would have loved the kind of clean cut, androgynous, unisex feel to it. And I could 100% even see him selling this in his store. And that's This Is Us by Zadig and Voltaire. You guys, you gotta admit, this is 100% what he would have loved. Like it's like clean but interesting. It's simple but intriguing. It's out there and yet super, like, you know, approachable. It is 100% unisex. It's marketed as such proudly. It's just like this, it says the Zadig tribe, no generation, live, laugh, live, love, rock, freedom, scent for all, never mind, forever young, happy together. Like, if that's not David, I don't know what is. I felt like this was the perfect pick for him. He'd love this, he'd sell this. It also kind of smells a bit natural smelling, like maybe it could be a kind of a indie niche scent. But yeah, this is 100% David Rose. I feel like he would have loved that. So the next one is our beloved Moira. And Moira Rose, I mean, what isn't she, is a simpler thing to answer. So I really wanted to choose something that was a strong scent, that was a scent also that was at least made for her age range, but I mean everyone can wear anything, but that was like very deliberate, of kind of like a 60s vibe to it. I wanted it to have patchouli 100%. I could see her being a patchouli fanatic, and it's interesting. When we get to the other one as well, you'll see what I mean. But anyways, I chose Y for her, YSL. It was like made, I think originally, or at least, yeah, I think it was originally made in 1964, and it's supposed to kind of evoke scent from that time. It's got coriander and patchouli and oak moss and bergamot, and it's very strong and very long lasting and very in your face, which are all things she is. It's got an element of hairspray, but like old school hairspray to it, which I think is perfect because her hair on that show is ridiculous. Her 1001 wigs are her babies, and I'm sure they're all like reeking of old school hairspray, like older school than Elnet, like really true 60s hairspray. And yeah, it's just a very like patchouli oak moss strong scent. It is 100% something that I feel like she'd be into. I do not see her wearing something super feminine and girly and soft, but I also don't see her being like something to have like super leather or satiny vibes to it. Like this for me is Moira Rose. Other than like a wine scent, this would be her perfect scent. And then finally, I had to finish off the family with Johnny Rose. And for him, I thought it was fitting that it ended up working this way, but his is also a scent from YSL, which I just think is so cute, the couple having both YSL scents. But I wanted something classic for him, something that smelled like it was clean and masculine and a little bit barbershoppy, but not all the way. He's not one to push the boundaries. Like, he's the least quirky out of all of them, and I wanted that to show in the scent. I wanted it to be a very appropriate and dignified choice that he would have chosen when he was like at the height of his career, but that he kind of maintained throughout, because he's a very like suit and tie kind of guy. So I went with La Nuit de l'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent. This is exactly what that is. It's a totally clean, approachable, masculine, but not too ultra masculine, not too sweet, not too woody. Like, it's just your middle of the road, really nice men's fragrance. And it evokes someone who's got their shit together. And that is exactly what he was like during his richest time, but also who he wants to present himself like. Like, he is really the straight man in this whole comedy, and he's really trying to hold it together as much as possible. And that is like a very dependable, safe, but beautiful and nice fragrance choice. So that is Johnny Rose for me. And then finally, this is the show and the two that I hope I do a good job, and you can leave me in the comments if you think I did. But you guys have recommended since the beginning for me to do Vampire Diaries, and I never saw that show. I've really never seen anything with anything vampire, werewolf stuff. Like, that just was never my vibe. I know it's like everyone else's, but I just have never seen it. So after many a talk and research, I chose Elena and Katherine as the two to do, because from what I understood, like, they're played by the same actress, and they're kind of like two sides to the same coin. Like, they obviously look the same, but one's very one way and one's very the other. So we'll go with Elena first. Let's start this way. I chose Romance by Ralph Lauren. I'd heard that she was kind of like the girl next door, that she was super sweet and compassionate and was like a family person and took care of her brother, or like that wanted just like a safe, stable life, and just was like the good girl next door, basically. That some people said was like secretly problematic, but again, I never watched the show. But at the very least, she wanted to present herself as just kind of this stable girl next door, all-American girl. And I also checked their zodiac signs just so I could get more vibe. And she was also a Cancer. She's kind of Gemini Cancer cusp, but definitely a Cancer. So I went with Romance by Ralph Lauren. This is just like a very all-American scent to me. Ralph Lauren is very all-American. This is just your run-of-the-mill. This could very easily be like a girl next door. It's very much a mom scent. It's floral, but it's safe. It's a little sparkling. It really is going to be like non-offensive to pretty much everyone in the room, unless you're looking for something interesting, in which this is not that. This is not breaking any boundaries. You could wear this to like a PTA meeting, but you could also wear it out to lunch with friends. You could wear it to like a football game, but you could wear it to school. Like, that's the kind of vibe I got from who Elena was, and at least who Elena wanted to be. Then there's Katherine, who's, I've heard, a vampire, and she is a Gemini, so I had to do my fellow Gemini queen proud. And that she, from again what I heard, was a lot darker. She's more tortured. She's more, again, some people said a lot more interesting, and she has like a more dark story arc, again, is what I've understood, which makes sense because she's been like a vampire for the past however many hundreds of years. So I thought, but again, like, I was like, maybe there's a heart, like, I tried my best to ask questions. Like, there is somewhat of a, at least in her mind, a heart of gold, or for the people she loves, maybe somewhere there is some good. She's not just like pure evil. So anyways, I was intrigued by choosing an Ange ou Démon, angel and demon fragrance for her based on all that, but none of the other ones would match. Like, it had to be Angel and Demon Le Parfum, because this one really has like the most grit to it. It's got like a Schitt vibe to it as well. And it's not the original Angel and Demon. Ange Démon is beautiful. It's one of my favorites. I think it's an incredible Gemini scent. But what I got from her seemed a lot more like dark and tortured, maybe a little borderline evil, maybe a little out there conniving. And so I needed it to be not as interesting and cool and intriguing as the original. This is a lot more of like a nighttime version of that. It's got a very small bit of that original DNA, but in general, I feel like it goes in a completely different direction. It's got a Schittness to it. It's got like a patchouli vibe to it. It's a lot more grounded, but like grounded in darkness. And that's what I got from her. I didn't see her as someone like Elena that would have something bright and open and inviting as Romance by Ralph Lauren. I saw her as being someone who would wear something like this, and only the few and the brave would be allowed in to her inner circle. So I hope that matched. You will have to let me know in the comments below, especially for those two, because again, I love choosing fragrances and I think I do a pretty good job, but it's harder to do if you are just basing it off of research. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I loved making it. I'm sure it was a very long one. Definitely let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of the choices I made and the characters. I would love more recommendations from you guys, so eventually I can do a part 4 when I've got enough of your selections and my ideas. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Bye!